Welcome back to Hot Mic. I'm Mike McCran, your host. We are now post UFC 264. We're going to break it down. We're going to talk about my predictions. I didn't get too many right, but we're going to see where I was accurate. It was a mixed bag of emotions that fight night. I feel a lot of different ways about it. I feel real warm and fuzzy about the prelims and the early prelims, and then the main card, my emotions get a little bit more complicated. The first call that I made, so the predictions that I made, educated guesses, I think I had a 33% success rate. So not great, not the worst. I could do better, but let's start with the first fight that I called, which was Jennifer Maia versus Jessica Eye. I did have that as Jennifer Maia actually getting it done with Jessica Eye. She was not able to do that. It went to decision. Jennifer Maia did get the decision. But, I mean, putting Jessica Eye away is no easy task unless you're a Valentina Shevchenko, and you can do it with a beautifully timed head kick. But it was a grinding fight, and it was really fun to see those two go at it, and that headbutt was nasty.
How about that? How about that cut?
That cut on her forehead, and they had put the Vaseline in. I thought they were going to stop the fight. I didn't think she was going to head back out. I thought maybe that was going to be doctor stoppage, but she headed out into that next round looking like Jessica Third Eye. She had a nasty open wound on that forehead. And luckily the Vaseline kept until a couple of those glancing punches off of her forehead. And then by the end of the third round, I mean, blood was just pouring down her face. She looked like Patrick Bateman in American Psycho after he's dealt with Jared Leto. Jared Leto was there last night.
And didn't he look nice?
He looked very pretty.
Very pretty.
He is a beautiful man, and he dresses like a beautiful woman.
He looked. When I first saw him, I definitely thought it was Jamie Lee Curtis.
Wow.
Yeah, but like I guess a younger Jamie Lee Curtis.
Okay.
The Jamie Lee Curtis from
I was gonna say, what a compliment to Jamie Lee Curtis.
15 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you're a woman in your mid-60s and you're compared to Jared Leto, you're probably like, really? Shut up. So that was a great fight. Went to decision, and Jennifer Maia got it done. That was the last fight in the early prelims. Then moving into the prelim card, I didn't make a prediction on the middleweight fight between Dricus du Plessis versus Trevin Giles. But that ended up being a fun fight to kick off that prelim card. Once again, didn't make a prediction, but Dricus got it done in that second round with a beautiful KO. And it was very interesting to see the difference in styles where Trevin has this hands low kind of peekaboo style. You don't know where these strikes are coming from. And then Dricus on the opposite side, he's got this high guard. He's got this strange stance, but very athletic, very explosive. And I believe the knockout came after Trevin lands two beautiful elbows against the cage and kind of takes a step back to admire his work, and Dricus explodes forward with a power right hand, and it's a beautiful cross and puts him to sleep. Dricus, I thought, made great use of his on mic time, and didn't make any specific call outs, but really wanted you to know his name, wanted you to remember the name, Dricus du Plessis. I can't wait to see him fight again.
Is this South African?
South African gentleman.
He'll be back.
He'll be back.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see who he fights next. I think Trevin Giles was a great test for him. I wonder who he will fight. and who will fight in the future. Next, the featherweights. This was a big disappointment to me. Ryan Hall against Ilia Topuria. Boy, I was calling for Ryan. He was doing exactly what I thought he was going to do. He was searching for that heel hook in the strangest ways possible. But I loved it. I mean, he was getting crazy boos from the crowd. And Joe Rogan was saying to the crowd, you hear these boos, but it's from a bunch of unschooled mouth breathers. It really was fascinating to watch. And Ilia, he had a good game plan, and it didn't rattle him. And a great defense against it, did not let his leg get tied up, and ended up KOing him on the mat. And Ryan, I think that strategy would work against a lot of fighters in the featherweight division. I just don't think. He just kept going back to the well. His stand-up game, he's got good kicks. He's got some really interesting spinning attacks, but he knew he was outclassed with Ilia on the feet. So he really just was going for these locks, and he couldn't tie him up. And everyone in the division knows, don't grapple with Ryan. Like, we're not going to the ground with Ryan Hall. And Ilia played a good game and didn't let it happen. So as much as that's not the outcome that I wanted to see, I'm impressed with Topuria, and also excited to see where he goes, because this was a big test for him. And sadly, Ryan Hall had a 2-year layoff. Yeah. Not because he's turning down fights either. He was having trouble getting a fight. So he's kind of towards the tail end of his career. And I'm not sure if where he wants it to go, but actually this loss might help him line up future fights. But I wonder if he'll make any tweaks to his game.
I hope he gets a couple more fights.
I hope so too.
I'd like to see him again. I enjoyed watching him.
Mm-hmm.
I like watching awkward fighters.
Yeah. And he's just, he has such a calm demeanor in there. He's just a different guy all around, but truly himself. Mm-hmm. So we'll see what happens for Ryan and Topuria in the future. Next up, the welterweight fight between Nico Price and Michel Pejera. This is the only one that I called spot on. I called the decision for Michel Pejera. It was, I mean, as soon as the fight started, I was thinking, I've got this all wrong. These guys are going to knock each other out in the first 2 minutes. Like, it was just a slugfest, and they're so explosive. Pejera is explosive in absolutely crazy ways. While Nico Price was grounded on his back, Michel actually turned his back to Nico Price's feet and did a full standing backflip to land on Nico. And it actually earned him, he actually achieved a full mount position because of that ridiculous backflip. And I think it was Cormier who was questioning. He's like, do you practice that in the gym? Do you practice those backflips? Anyways, interesting fight. It didn't disappoint. It was the banger slugfest that we thought. But we saw a really good game plan from Nico was to drag him into deep waters, because Michel is kind of known for having not too much of a gas tank. Like he's all fast twitch. He explodes. That is his default, as Joe Rogan was saying. And you can only run that speed for so long, and then you burn out. And
Nico was breathing heavy too, though.
Nico was tired at the end, but I think it was a comfortable position for him. It was like, okay, I'm in deep waters. I know how to hang. Whereas with Pejera, I think he avoids deep waters. He's like, I want to get you out in the first. And if that doesn't happen, my cardio is going to be a factor. And it was a factor, but Pejera had done so well in those first 2 rounds because he really gassed in that third round or maybe at the end of the second and didn't have much left. So I think that was a fair decision. Certainly by the end of the fight, it looks like Nico's getting the better of the fight, but that's not the game they play. It's best out of 3 rounds. And Michel was able to pull out 2 rounds to 1. So, good fight. Another welterweight fight to finish off that prelim card. Carlos Condit against Max Griffin. I also didn't call this right, but I thought he might get it done. My call was 3rd round TKO from Carlos Condit. And it was close in that 3rd round, Max was slowing down. I wouldn't say he was getting tired. He was slowing down, and Carlos was putting some stuff together. It just wasn't enough. Max is far too tough and skillful. And we're seeing an old Condit. He's still, finishing Condit is maybe one of the hardest things to do in the welterweight division. Actually putting that guy away. So it was the war that they both anticipated and promised. It didn't go Carlos's way, and I wonder how many more fights he has. I
want him to stop fighting before his face gets too messed up.
Yeah. I actually think I don't know if this is true, but I think in the 2nd round he got his nose broken.
I think he did too.
Did you notice that too?
I did. Yeah.
All of a sudden there was this big dip in the bridge of his nose. I was like, was that there before? Maybe not.
I wonder if he's already had work done on it.
Sure.
You know, when they.
Oh, he's probably had his nose broken half dozen times, and it just keeps re-breaking. And then after he retires, he'll have to have a nose job so that he can sleep at night. You mouth breather. All right, so that calls the prelims. Now we're moving on to the main card. Kicking off the main card in the bantamweight division was Sean O'Malley against Chris Moutinho. Wow. I knew nothing about Moutinho. This was his UFC debut. He took the fight on 12 days' notice. It was originally supposed to be Sean O'Malley's dance partner was going to be Luis Smolka. I was very sad to hear Smolka had to pull out. I'm actually not sure the reason. I'm sure maybe it was injury. Luckily, we're past the battle days of fail the COVID test, and now he's not fighting. It's most likely something like an injury. Couldn't accept the fight. That would have been really fun. I think that would have been a great challenge for both of them. But at this point in Smolka's career, he sits more as a stepping stone, and this would have been a good step for O'Malley to take. Now he takes on this newcomer and Moutinho, and this guy comes out to prove himself. A green-haired zombie who will not stop pressing forward. And it really was like this spring recoil reaction every time he got popped with a punch, which was more than 200 times in the fight. It just seemed he would press forward even harder. I cannot believe how tough that guy is and how accurate Sean O'Malley is. I mean, Sean O'Malley, he's so fun, he's so entertaining and charismatic and cocky, but with good reason. He is so skillful with his striking, and I love how he times things, and he looks to time like go off timing, off beat, so that it's very hard to get your guard up. When you think he is resetting, he's actually firing off, and it's very impressive. And he's from Arizona, Phoenix, hails out of Phoenix, and the Phoenix Suns, I think, are doing well in the championship. So he was doing some homage to them by dribbling. He was air dribbling in the octagon, and he was using it to time strikes. I thought that was fascinating.
I wish he'd done it more. I feel like I only saw him do it once. Did you see him do it more than once?
I saw him do it early in the first, where it was like,
I saw that time.
Air dribbling? But then right at the end of, I believe it was the first round, it was the worst that Chris was rocked, other than the last 30 seconds when Herb actually stopped the fight. But the last few seconds, I think the 10-second clap had already happened. You see it in slow motion in the replay. Sean does a dribble and then loads up on on this long cross, on this long right cross, and that's what like knocks Moutinho down on his butt. And you think almost like, oh, if he had 15 more seconds, maybe he could have put him away on the ground. But I thought that was a fascinating strategy, something I've never seen anything like before. That was crazy. I love watching him fight. I think he also made great use of the microphone at the end of his fight, and he called out some big names. I think Cody Garbrandt was one of them. Rob Font. I think he versus Rob Font would be so much fun. Rob Font trains with Calvin Cater out of Boston, and they are such slick boxers coming out of that camp. New England Assassins, I think that's what they're called. I think Rob's technical skills and the unorthodox nature of what Sean O'Malley brings to the octagon, I think would be fireworks.
NEA, not to be confused with National Endowments for the Arts.
Not to be confused. I always get those two confused.
I know you're joking. But before we move on, how are you feeling today, after a night of sleep, about the stoppage for that fight? A lot of people feel like Herb Dean called it early.
That's a good point. In the moment, I agreed with the commentary team. You got to let the guy finish. He's gone this far. You're going to stop it now. I think in Herb Dean's defense, because the guy was not going down. He was, maybe his knees were locking up a little bit, but he wasn't going out. But if the rule is you must intelligently defend yourself, I don't think he was capable of defending the blows that were coming at him. I think every single thing was landing, and that's more similar to what you'd see in a boxing match, where guys will not be going out, but you can't defend the blows coming. I don't know boxing well, so unless we're talking about boxing from the 70s, because I watched that with my dad on ESPN Classics. But as far as modern boxing, I don't know it well. But that's how the Conor McGregor Floyd Mayweather fight was stopped. Was Conor it's a technical knockout. It did go in the books as a TKO, but he didn't fall over. He wasn't he was probably on shaky legs, but he just kept getting hit, and there were all these unanswered shots. So he was basically out on his feet, and I think you could say that with Moutinho. I think, but in the moment, I actually feel like in the moment, I wanted to see that fight to the end. Sean O'Malley, we saw him turning it up. He was emptying his gas tank in that final minute. I know they kept talking about him looking at the clock. Sean O'Malley is so cheeky. I bet I would believe that is a tactic he uses. I would not be surprised if that was by design. I want you to see me looking at the clock. And it's also by design. I want to know exactly when I have 1 minute, and I am going to light you up. And that's exactly what he's doing. And he started changing level in a way I was very impressed with, because he didn't rip to the body too much. When he did, it was very successful. Pejera but he's basically headhunting. And in the last 30 seconds, I think 30 seconds is when Herb waved it off. So between 45 seconds remaining and 30, I think is when O'Malley really put the pedal to the metal, and he landed like a 7-piece combination that right in the middle was this like hips go low and then explode up into an uppercut, came right up the guard. I don't think Chris Moutinho, tough as nails, there's levels to this thing, and his toughness can get him a lot of wins in the UFC. But I think if he and Sean O'Malley fought again, I think it would look like that 9 times out of 10.
I really liked how Sean responded to the question when Joe asked him, how'd you feel about the stoppage?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, I'd say it was called early, but also it wasn't, because he probably saved him from 20 more headshots.
Yeah. Yeah, he admitted he felt both ways about it.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, I feel like it could have kept going, but then again, not really, because I was trying to take his head off, and Herb stopping it was merciful because I was going to take years off of his life. Arguably, he did take years off of his life. By the end of the first round, it was something like 90% accuracy. End of the second round, I think it was 84% accuracy. And by the end of the third, by the stoppage of the fight, I think the count for him was 82% accuracy. That's unheard of. That's crazy. It's, that is absolutely a testament to Sean O'Malley's skill set. But it also, a big factor is the lack of head movement from Chris. Like, I think that both of those play together.
Yeah, he could use some more head movement.
Yeah, he's got the zombie style. And
just kept coming forward.
It really is going to take years off of his life.
Well,
if we revisit that guy in 45...
Is it worth $75,000?
I don't know that they got it.
I think
Sadly.
they did.
Did they? Did they get the fight bonus?
Did.
I didn't follow up on the fight bonuses.
I believe they did.
Okay. Mm-hmm. Well, then yes. Well, no. I don't know. I don't know if it's worth it.
Well, it's a whole subjective question.
75 grand. Would you let
Nope.
Sean O'Malley punch you in the head 200 times?
No, you're going to have to pay off all my student loans to do that.
70 what about $1 million?
I'd consider it for a mil. I'd consider it.
But still, 200 blows to the head.
Oh,
I'd rather keep my memories.
I'd rather do that too.
I feel like
I'd rather
after
just
100,
not do that.
I feel like after 25 hits, you're like, I don't know math anymore. This is rough. Okay, moving on to the catchweight fight, lady fight. Irene. I was saying Irene. Irene Aldana out of Mexico against Yana Kunitskaya. Wow, this was fun. I did not call this one right. I saw this going to decision. Once I saw the first minute of the first round, I was like, "Ooh, I got this one wrong. This is not going to decision." And I'm forgetting Aldana is a finisher, and so is Kunitskaya. But and Kunitskaya came out guns blazing. Loved her kiops. She sounded so savage and primal. The way she was screaming into each punch. Loved that. And I think Aldana was patient and knew her game, and then just started timing her. And
that's what it was.
Yana just kept coming in with these kind of not full blitz charges, but would move forward with her combos, and it allowed for some openings for Aldana to start popping off some really, really precise strikes. Opened up Kunitskaya's nose, affecting her breathing, and then I think, that was the rest of the fight was Aldana really, really dominating into a TKO first round finish via punches.
I like both these fighters so much, but I'm such a big Aldana fan now more than ever. She's amazing.
How do you see Aldana, and when she gets the title shot that she will deserve, arguably does deserve already, or she's next in line, if not, close to getting very close to a title shot. How do you think she does against Amanda Nunes?
I don't know. I hope she does well, but Amanda Nunes, she is the GOAT, unless she's losing steam. And would you say it's fair to say that the women's division isn't old enough to know exactly how the best lady fighters are going to age in their career? Like, I don't know when Amanda Nunes is going to get too old to fight. She seems like she's on the top of her game.
She might be in her prime. At a certain point, it's like, what more do you need to prove? We'll see. I'm excited. I'm excited for Aldana. If it's
Me too.
And if her title opportunity is for a vacant title after Amanda retires and vacates,
that'd be cool.
Good for Aldana. Yeah. Dodge that bullet if you can.
Yeah.
Okay, next to the big boys, the heavyweights. Also had this one wrong, and I feel bad for it. Tai Tuivasa beats Greg Hardy in a first-round KO. Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Man, Tai, I'll never doubt you again. You got so much power in your hands. And I look at him, and yeah, he's a big fat guy. And I thought the athleticism was going to be the determining factor, and it absolutely wasn't. It was true technique and
experience.
Fight IQ. And man, it's scary to have Greg Hardy stalking you, and he is so explosive. As a Hall of Famer NFL football player, like he is absolutely top of the food chain when it comes to explosive athletes. But Tai Tuivasa is a fighter. He's a fighter's fighter, and man, he's so fun and entertaining. I think, and I actually think that what he puts as his classification of what his fight style is a street fighter. He is a street fighter. It's pretty impressive.
That's awesome.
Yeah. He could be a character from the game Street Fighter.
He was a character on the mic last night. Yeah. I loved him on the mic. He was fantastic. Hilarious.
He did multiple shoeys. Some asshole put hot sauce in a shoey.
I think it was a woman. I really got so I saw what she was doing. I saw her add something from a slim bottle and saw him start to chug it, and then I saw the bottle in her hand was clearly a hot sauce bottle, and I was like, does he know? Does he know that's about to happen? Like, is he okay with that? He just
started spitting it out.
Did you ask for consent, ma'am?
What's great is he did like 3 more shoeys, which he probably needed to just to get the taste out of his mouth.
Yeah.
Like, boy, I'm burning up right now.
Yeah.
That was a great victory for him. Love that guy.
He also got a bonus.
Yes, fantastic, and he should. He absolutely should. He put him away very quickly. And I know he's so far. I mean, he was looking for a top 15, top 10 guy. I really hope he gets it. I think a fun fight for him in the future. Like, he's got to keep working towards it. But I'd love to see him fight Derrick Lewis. I know Derrick Lewis is at the top of the mountain. Derrick Lewis is the
that would be a fun fight.
number 2 contender.
Oh, I'd love to see those two.
No, number 1.
Yeah.
I think that would be really, really fun.
Yeah.
Because they both hit hard as hell. A big factor would be Ty's kicks are a little bit better. His great kicks from Ty.
Derrick Lewis probably has better cardio at this point because he's been
really working on that cardio.
He's been working on it.
Well, he's got a big test in front of him. Derrick Lewis, that is, with Cyril Gahn, and we got Derrick Lewis, not a traditional athlete by any means, but just thunderous power of the gods in his fists. And he's going up against arguably the one of the most athletic heavyweights we've ever seen in the octagon. Yeah. Cyril Gane. I've never seen into the 4th and 5th round of a fight, a heavyweight is still bouncing on the balls of his feet.
It's amazing.
And darting in and out.
Incredible.
It's incredible he does that at that weight. He looks like he's a middleweight. It's incredible. Okay, on to the co-main. Gilbert Burns, Stephen Wonderboy Thompson didn't go the way I saw it going or wanted it to go. I'm a fan of both of these guys, but Burns is scary. He's just such a ball of explosive energy, and I think Stephen did the best he could at keeping that range, but it really seems like Burns and his camp had a game plan of getting Thompson to the ground. Not surprising. Thompson holds the length in his favor, the striking pedigree. Not surprising whatsoever that they said, let's not stand and bang with this guy. Though when he did, he was doing pretty well. I think Thompson did all he could, but in the grappling department, you're going up against a world-class jiu-jitsu practitioner who is still competing at the highest level in straight jiu-jitsu tournaments. So this is not a guy who has just completely changed lanes and moved into MMA. His bread and butter is still BJJ, and he's one of the best to do it. I predicted a 3rd round KO head kick, and it almost happened with, I think, a spinning wheel kick.
So close.
That it didn't land, but it was like a glancing shot maybe. Maybe Burns got his guard up just in time, so it wasn't solid, but he got a little bit rocked. But that was as close as I came to my prediction being correct. Once the fight was over, it was very clear that it would be a decision win for Gilbert Burns. Those 6 or 7 punches directly to the back of the head in the last 10 seconds when he's up against the cage, very hard to watch. And Burns seems like a guy who can, in a moment of fury, can kind of lose control. I bet if he looked at the tape again and said, "Oh boy, ooh, those are all illegal," I bet in the moment he's in complete berserker mode.
How classy of a guy is Wonderboy that he didn't try to call out the illegal strikes. He was just very gracious in defeat.
He's a true gentleman, classiest guy. I'll be so sad when he retires. I'll also be really happy. Like, I'll be happy for him. He's got a really good setup with his gym in North Carolina. I'm not sure where, but he's got a good YouTube channel. Awesome guy. Boy, what a great ambassador for the sport. Truly. First fight night I ever showed you was Darren Till, Wonderboy Thompson, and I knew that was a great main event.
It was
to start on.
It hooked me.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of main events, let's talk about the main event.
Do we have to?
We don't. We can forget. we can pretend it didn't happen. We can pretend. Dustin Poirier, Conor McGregor, rubber match. This was to settle the score. And boy, that first round, it was a good game plan for Dustin. I want to close the distance. Basically, I'm sure that was their game plan. Was like, if we're standing and striking, I can hold my own. He's a fantastic striker, Dustin Poirier, but if I can grind him up against the cage, if I can basically do to Conor what Habib did to Dustin, to Conor, to Gaethje, to everybody. and Dustin maybe got the rub just a little bit and was able to be like, he was having success in that first round. Obviously, we know what happened. Very end of the first round, Conor works his way back to his feet. There's a few more striking exchanges. And then I think one more strike is thrown from Conor. I don't believe it lands. And then he goes back for a reset. I believe the last second of the fight. Last second of the round. My bad.
Mm-hmm.
He goes back on his rear leg, his left leg. It seems to roll on the outside, and then his tib fib snaps. And his foot, his leg goes complete noodle. And I went screaming out of the room. I immediately saw something was very, very wrong. And
I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah. I don't think many people did, because it's the end of the round. You're like, okay, everyone's like, okay, reset. Now we got to get the game plan.
I just knew something was wrong. I knew he banked up against the cage in a weird way, sitting on his butt. Mm-hmm. That was really weird. And then...
When you saw that, and I didn't, because I was in a ball in the corner.
Yeah.
The other side of the house.
Yeah.
Yeah, screaming.
But he started to lift up his leg, and you could see the foot dangling. And it was like, oh, that's all I need to see.
Yeah, you ran into the house.
I was
you
like,
went into the backyard.
I'm out. Yeah,
that was horrible. I still am feeling the grief of the loss of the full fight. Similar but different is Ben Askren, Jorge Mosbidal. We got to see a spectacular KO of Ben Askren. We didn't get to see a fight. The only reason I compare him is like we didn't see the full fight. We saw a good first round, and there's a very good likelihood that Dustin was going to knock out Conor once again. Mm-hmm. It was really looking like that was a strong possibility. Mm-hmm. Was that Dustin's strategy was going to have success. Now, in Dustin's post-fight interview, he did admit to getting clipped really hard with a left hand. That's always the risk with Conor. Is he's got a lightning bolt, a sledgehammer in that left hand, a piston that just fires out and puts you to sleep. And he was having some success with that. I liked that long stance that Conor was employing. I liked the low kicks that he was throwing. But I do think the likelihood is that one of those low kicks coming off of that left leg compromised Conor's leg. That there were fractures that happened from a checked kick. Mm-hmm. So all of that is sad. We didn't get to see a real fight. This goes as a loss. Goes as a win for Poirier, which is that's tough for me. I'm happy he gets to move on. Hopefully he does move on with his life, move on with his career, and goes for this title shot with Oliveira. Now focus on getting the full title. But that's not a true victory over Conor. We didn't get to see the full rubber match. So I'm sad, very sad about that. And I'm also really sad at how Conor handled himself.
Wasn't good.
It felt like vintage Conor, where it's like, oh, you're the heel. You're the bad guy. And he was still talking shit about Dustin's wife as they were walking out of the arena, and he was talking about how your wife's in my DMs and she'll be in my bed by the end of the week and stuff. It was like, man, you're a dad. You're a married father of two. Like, what are you doing? Like, I thought you grew out of this. And I watched a bit of the post-fight presser with Dustin's interview, and they were asking about that, that how the animosity, how it had grown almost bigger than their first fight, which they hated each other in that first fight. Or at least Dustin hated Conor. Truly, Conor is putting on a character. Mm-hmm. It's a very convincing character. Mm-hmm. It's very believable. Mm-hmm. And Dustin was questioning whether this is a requirement for Conor to be at his best, if he needs to be this alter ego, if he needs to be the bad guy, if he has to put on that mask of the other.
I think that's insightful.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It just was such a bad look. That was so hard to see. Because if he had handled it differently, just like, this is maybe he shouldn't have gotten an interview at all. Like, let's just get this guy out on a stretcher. But it's Conor McGregor. He's the biggest name in the sport.
Yeah.
So I think him getting a chance to speak was good, but I just wish it was an opportunity he took to be gracious and honestly asking Dustin, or just saying, hey, we need to do this again, because clearly we didn't finish the fight. I got a freak injury. Tragic to watch. I felt gutted.
No closure.
No. No closure in that. But I'm interested to see what happens for Conor. He certainly doesn't need to be doing this. He's doing it for legacy, and his legacy is changing because of each and every fight that he takes, and it's not for the good.
It would just be so cool to see him take a left turn.
Yeah.
In his life.
And I thought we saw that from him when he fought Dustin last time, where he was this incredibly respectful, mature man, that it really felt like fatherhood had changed him. Where the things he was saying in the octagon and the way he was disrespecting Dustin and his family, where I thought Dustin was being as respectful as he could be. He was still throwing jabs, metaphorical jabs at him, and mocking the Billy walk, after he had the broken leg. But I wouldn't want my kids seeing my behavior after that. I think you could probably chalk it up to, well, he's in shock. He is in shock. His leg is severed in half, and he's lucky the bone isn't sticking out. Yeah. But boy, if that's shock, it looks shockingly similar to Conor's early persona as the heel.
Yeah.
So I'm a fan of Conor, but he doesn't make it easy. And if he rides off into the sunset and just enjoys that
whiskey money,
that fuck you whiskey money, power to him. I hope he does. If he sticks around, that would be interesting as well. But it's only going to be hard fights. It's only going to be...
That's how the sport works.
The top of the heap.
Yeah.
If you are the face of the sport, and you were the king of the mountain, that's the only place you want to get back to. He's not looking to go and just work his way through the top 10. And so there might not be a road for him to knock off the ring rust. I think this might be the pattern if he continues.
Would you like to know who won the other bonus last night?
Yes, who won?
There was one more, and it was an earlier fight. It was the Duplessis.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
That's great.
He got a bonus.
As he should. Fantastic performance. Class act of a guy. And so the bantamweight, Sean O'Malley and Chris Moutinho, they got fight of the night.
Yes.
And Dricus got performance of the night.
Is that
Dricus Duplessis?
I think so.
Okay. Performance or knockout of the night? Maybe knockout of the night?
Tuvasa got performance of the night.
Okay.
Performance of the night. And then what did Duplessis get?
Who got broken leg of the night? I've got my guesses.
It was also performance of the night for Duplessis.
Okay.
But yeah, fight of the night was Sean and Chris.
Wow. What a night. I feel a lot of different things about it.
It's okay, babe.
It was hard.
We just got to feel our feelings.
I feel my feelings. I feel it so hard. But it was a good fight night. That was a good breakdown. And we'll keep them coming. This has been Hot Mike. I'm Mike McCran. That was my hot take. I'm out.